A nice dish to make when the weather turns a little bit chilly in the fall. In the winter is stuffed chicken breast. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to julienne, or just cut in strips, my basil leaves. And that's most easily done just by stacking them together. So you can be able to cut through all the layers at once. Be careful because a sharp knife and fingers are very close on that stack of basil leaves. And they're about 1/8 of an inch wide. Let's put those to the side. Now we're going to do the same thing with some sun-dried tomatoes. I'm going to take the tomatoes out, maybe 2 nice halves. They don't cut quite as easily as the basil leaves, but so you might have to work the knife in a little bit firmer. And try to pick out another nice one that's going to cut well and also maybe look fairly decent. There we go. That's good enough. And so let's cut through there. Still about 1/8 of an inch wide for your strips. Okay, we got those julienne. Let's put away the sun-dried tomatoes. And now we're going to do the chicken. We're going to brown it on both sides. Let's turn the heat on high and splash about a good tablespoon of olive oil in. And you will do, doesn't have to be very good because you're going to be basically heating it, which destroys the advantages of any cold first pressed or the better oils. Okay, it's just starting to smoke, about a minute, and we're going to put that breast on the smooth side down first. It really doesn't matter, but I like to start with that side. And it's going to take about a minute to 1.5 to brown them on one side, and then we're going to flip them to the other. It might take a little bit longer depending on how hot you can get your stove going. Salt and pepper. And after about a minute, 1.5, let's flip them over to the other side. Okay, so we're going to do the same there. Just getting the oil spread a little bit more evenly there. And so after about 3 minutes total, I'm going to turn the stove off. I'm going to take the chicken breasts out, and I'm going to let them cool. It doesn't matter. I mean, if you're brave enough, you can keep going while they're still hot, but I like to cool them off about 5 or 10 minutes. Makes it a lot easier to work with them then. So now they're nice and cool. I'm going to take them each off. And now we're going to stuff them. So we're going to butterfly, which means we're going to make a nice incision in one side, usually the rough side, and the straighter side acts as a hinge. We just cut them right in half vertically. It doesn't have to look too great. There we go. So now we're going to spread some, just wipe the hands off. I'm going to spread the goat cheese as a base layer. I can get the package open. Here we go. Just any basic goat cheese will do. And I just use a fork and my fingers. They're clean. Make a nice little, maybe 1/4 inch layer of goat cheese. More or less, depending on how you like it. And I happen to like goat cheese, so I put a little extra on. Spread it out evenly using the fork tines. There we go. A little bit more on that one. Okay, so now what we're going to do is put the sun-dried tomatoes and the basil strips across the goat cheese. Let's put the tomato strips on first and make them look pretty, all one direction. There we go. And maybe one over there. When we're done with that, Wipe the hands because now they're a bit sticky and it makes it easier to, if you have dry fingers, to put the basil strips on. Just kind of scatter them over the top. There we go. You can use more or less basil also if you're have some fondness. And also I'm leaving a few strips left over that I'll chop up and sprinkle on top as a garnish. Since it's not a real colorful dish, the added green on the plates at the end helps make it look a little bit more visually appealing. Alright, so I'm flipping that over. You can also secure them with toothpicks if you like. But I just pat them down a little bit. Put them in the oven-proof pot. Sometimes I put a little bit of wine, maybe an eighth of a cup of wine or an eighth of a cup of broth in the bottom, just to keep them from drying out too much. And put in the oven. 325 that's been preheated. And set the timer for 20 minutes. And let it bake. In the meantime, if you want to do a little bit of orzo, I make this the same way I do with rice. I use a cup of orzo. And we're a little bit short on this one, but that'll work. That'll be plenty. A cup is actually a little bit too much for two people, but 3/4 a cup will do. And I'll use twice that amount of broth. Just like I'm doing rice, twice the amount of rice that you would put in. I've got the heat on high right now. Pour in a cup, and about a cup and a half since I put in 3/4 a cup of orzo. That makes a cup and a half of broth. And get that boiling. Stir it a little bit. And once it's going to start boiling, once it comes to a rolling boil, I'm just going to reduce the heat to simmer and put the top on for 10 to 12 minutes. There we go. Okay, so now we've got our orzo cooked and our chicken cooked. Take the chicken out of the oven, and I splash a little bit of white wine in there, get a little sauce that I can put over the top. And just put one on each plate. Get the orzo, stir it up. You can put pine nuts in the orzo, maybe a little feta cheese or a little of the goat cheese, whatever you like. But here I'm just using plain orzo. Wasn't feeling too creative. And just scoop that up. Basically I cooked the orzo until it wasn't liquidy anymore, just like with the rice. There we go, scoop up the orzo. Take a little bit of the leftover basil as a garnish on the top. And you have stuffed chicken breasts with orzo. One of my favorite dishes.